Optimus started as a prototype on stage. Now it's working in Tesla factories, and Elon wants millions more. But what happens when robots replace 40% of jobs? This is the biggest shift in human labor and quite possibly history itself. We break down all the latest AI dope.
All right, so picture a world where robots are like everywhere, like smartphones.
Oh, wow. Oh,
Doing
okay.
everything, flipping burgers, surgeries, you name it.
Uh-huh.
And the crazy thing is, it's all because of this Tesla Optimus robot.
It really is amazing, isn't it? Like, how fast things are moving. It feels like just yesterday, Optimus was, this prototype on a stage.
Yeah.
And now they're, like, actually working in Tesla factories. It's wild.
I know. And what really gets me is Tesla's ambition, right? They're not messing around. It's not like they're making a couple thousand of these things.
I don't know.
Elon's talking millions, maybe even billions of these robots out in the world.
Yeah, and that's where things get really interesting. We've been looking at all this data based on like how many robots Tesla's planning to make.
Right.
And also just kind of current automation trends in general. And, well, the numbers, they kind of paint a stark picture of what's coming.
So, okay, give it to me straight. What kind of disruption are we talking about here?
Okay, so imagine this. All right. Almost 40% of the jobs we have now, gone, automated within like the next 10 years.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
40%. I mean, that's like almost half the people I know could lose their jobs to robots.
Oh.
So what jobs are we even talking about here? Is this like just factory workers, truck drivers, or are we all kind of in trouble?
It's going to be way bigger than those old like automation waves. Think about it. This Optimus thing, it's not built for like one specific job.
Right.
It's built to like learn. It adapts. So yeah, manufacturing, transportation, they'll be hit hard. But you got to think about it. Retail, healthcare, even like food service, they could all change. Quick ask. Almost 95% of you watch our videos but still aren't subscribed. Please click subscribe. It really helps us grow. And if you're not loving our content, you can always change your mind. Thanks, and back to it.
Okay, so then what are people supposed to do if their jobs are just poof, gone? I mean, are we just supposed to like watch everything fall apart?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? I mean, there's no easy answer, really. But people are coming up with solutions. And one that keeps popping up is this universal basic income thing, UBI.
Right, UBI. So that's the idea that everyone gets a paycheck no matter what.
Exactly.
Whether they work or not. I mean, it sounds kind of nice, but how would that even work?
Well, it's pretty simple when you break it down. So everyone gets this fixed amount every month, enough for like basic stuff.
Right.
Food, housing, healthcare, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And where the money comes from, that's where it gets interesting. It could be from like taxes on those big company profits, or maybe taxes on robot labor, or who knows, even like carbon emissions.
So we just completely rethink how work and money work.
Exactly.
And instead of jobs, everyone's got this safety net to, live at least a basic life.
Exactly. And it's not just like surviving. It's about giving people the chance to chase their dreams, starting businesses, helping their communities, all without that stress of needing a job just to get by.
Hey, want our free AI dope top AI tools that we use? Chat below. It's our live Google Sheets packed with over 100 killer tools, video, music, photos, AI voices, productivity, script writing, YouTube hacks, captions, the works, always growing, live Google Sheet, always free, AI, dope top AI tools that we use. Download and chat below. Back to the show.
Okay, let's say we're in this future where robots do most of the work and we've got UBI. What happens to the economy then? If nobody's really earning wages, how do we buy stuff? Does the whole thing just kind of implode?
It's a common worry, yeah. But you got to think about a few things. First, with robots doing all the work, things could get a lot cheaper.
Right.
So even if people have less money, things cost less, so they can actually buy more.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And second, UBI doesn't mean work just disappears, It just means we change what work means. People can still freelance, be entrepreneurs, be creative, or even do community stuff to earn extra.
This is not about being lazy, right?
Yeah.
It's about rethinking what work is and giving people a chance to contribute differently.
You got it. And this is where the data gets really cool.
Okay.
There are studies that show even a little bit of UBI can boost the economy.
Oh, really?
Yeah, people spend more, they start businesses. It's pretty neat.
All right, so UBI might not be the economic doomsday some people think.
Yeah.
But it's still a big, like, radical idea. How do we even start to make it real?
Yeah, no doubt it'd take a huge shift in thinking and policies.
Yeah.
But the cool thing is there are already these like pilot programs happening all over the world, testing out different models,
Oh,
gathering data, seeing how UBI works in the real world.
so it's not just talk.
Nope.
People are actually trying it out. That's kind of exciting.
It is. And the early results, well, they're looking pretty good so far. Less poverty, better health, even local economy is getting a boost. It's promising.
So it sounds like UBI might actually work.
Mm-hmm.
Like, at least it's worth looking into, right? But let's be honest, is it even possible to get it done politically?
Well, that's where things get a bit, well, tricky. UBI, it's always been kind of controversial.
Yeah, of course.
Strong opinions on both sides.
Yeah, some see it as this, like, socialist disaster, while others think it's, like, the only way to survive the future of work.
Exactly. And figuring out how to bridge that gap is, well, it's going to be key if we want to make UBI happen.
Right. Okay, so hypothetically, let's say we actually do figure that out. Like, we jump over all those political hurdles and boom, nationwide UBI. What happens then? What does that world even look like?
Well, that's when it gets really, really interesting. It's like a fundamental change in how everything works. Everything from education, healthcare, even down to how we interact with each other, our relationships, like everything changes.
All right, my brain is starting to hurt a little,
Yeah.
but in a good way. It's making me think about the future, like, totally differently.
That's kind of the point, right? The whole reason we're doing this deep dive. Like,
Yeah.
we want to explore what this Optimus thing could mean and, you know, get people thinking about what kind of future they want.
Absolutely. So we talked about jobs disappearing, maybe UBI as an answer. But what about just, like, the bigger picture? Like, ethically, socially, what happens when we've got millions of robots doing our jobs?
Oh, that's a whole other conversation. And an important one. We got to unpack all that. You see, Optimus might be amazing tech, but it also brings up some big questions. Who controls these robots? How do we keep them from being used for bad stuff? What about hackers taking over? Like, millions of connected machines. It gets complicated fast.
Okay, yeah, now that's a cliffhanger. I am definitely tuning in for part 2 to dig into all of that.
We'll definitely be doing that. And we'll also be talking about other solutions, not just UBI, and what people can do to, you know, be ready for this whole changing world.
So much to talk about. But before we move on, let's recap what we've learned so far. So, Tesla's Optimus. It could automate a ton of jobs. Like, we're talking maybe a 40% drop in the workforce in the next 10 years.
And to deal with that, we talked about universal basic income.
Right.
We looked at the good and the bad of it, how it could work and how hard it might be to get it done. It's not just about the economy, right?
Right.
This whole world with millions of Optimus robots running around.
Yeah.
It kind of makes you think, like, what does it even mean to be human when work isn't really a thing anymore?
It's like we're about to run this giant social experiment. You know, what happens to us, our purpose, our identity, even like how society works. When work, like the way we've always known it, just kind of goes away.
Yeah, it's a really big question. I mean, sociologists and anthropologists, they're trying to figure that out right now. We can already see what happens when automation hits hard.
Yeah.
Communities fall apart, people lose their jobs, and it's not just the money.
It's like that whole idle hands thing, right? If work isn't there to give you structure, what do? More crime, unrest, or just like everyone gets bummed out and gives up.
It's a real worry. Honestly, we don't have all the answers yet. But, you know, it doesn't have to be all doom and gloom. Imagine, like, everyone's freed from those boring jobs. They can chase their passions, be creative, or just, like, connect with each other more.
Okay, yeah, that does sound kind of nice. But let's not forget those downsides, right? Like, who controls these robots? How do we keep them from doing bad stuff? What about hackers? Like, millions of robots getting hacked. That's scary.
Those are all, like, critical questions, not just, you know, hypotheticals. We've already seen AI mess up, you know, algorithms with bias leading to, like, unfair stuff happening. And the more robots we have, the more chances there are for them to be misused or controlled by the wrong people.
So, okay, how do we stop that? Can we even control something this powerful once it's out there?
Well, the first thing is, like, we got to admit there's a problem. We need to talk about it, honestly. We got to come up with, like, ethical rules for AI and robots, clear guidelines, and make sure everything's transparent and accountable.
So it's not just about the tech itself. It's about making sure it's used for good, right?
Exactly. And that's where, like, governments and stuff come in. We need global rules for AI, ways to monitor it, you know, audits and stuff, and laws to figure out who's responsible when machines start making big decisions.
Sounds like a lot. Kind of overwhelming, to be honest. Can regular people even do anything? Or are we just along for the ride?
It's easy to feel that way, right? But even though it's big, our choices still matter. And the most important thing, stay informed. Learn about AI, robots, what it all means.
Yeah, knowledge is power, they say.
Yeah.
But what about actually doing something? How do we adapt and be successful in this new world?
Okay, so here's the thing. Focus on those skills that robots can't do. Creativity, critical thinking, solving tough problems, emotional intelligence, being adaptable, learning new stuff all the time.
Those are the skills that will be valuable when robots are doing all the routine stuff, right?
Exactly. And don't forget, human connection.
Right.
As tech gets better, those things that make us human, relationships, empathy, connecting with each other, they become even more important.
So it's not just about learning new skills. It's about being human, basically. Connecting with each other in a real way.
Yeah, exactly. And remember, it's not just about surviving, it's about thriving. This whole Optimus thing, it could change how we live, work, how we relate to each other. It's a chance to build a better future, A fairer one, sustainable, fulfilling.
Okay, now I'm feeling a little better about all this. But there's one thing that's still kind of bugging me. We keep talking about UBI as the answer, but are there any other options? Is that it?
It's definitely not the only idea out there. Some people think we should, tax the robots.
Tax the robots, yeah.
Yeah, so basically, companies that use robots instead of people, they pay a tax, and that money goes to, social programs or helps people learn new skills.
Interesting. So instead of giving everyone money, we tax the things taking their jobs. Kind of like that.
It makes sense, right? And then there's this thing called a negative income tax. It's similar to UBI, but it's more for people who really need it. If you're making less money, you get more help, and as you earn more, the help goes down.
So it's like a safety net that catches you if you fall, but doesn't hold you back if you're doing well.
Exactly. And there are other ideas out there, like sharing jobs, working less hours, or the government creating new jobs in, green energy or sustainable stuff.
So it's not like one solution fixes everything. It's about trying different things and finding what works best for each situation.
Exactly. And, maybe it'll be a mix of all these ideas depending on what each place needs.
It's a lot to think about, but I think the big takeaway here is that we have choices, right? The future isn't set in stone. We're building it now with the decisions we make, the conversations we have, what we do.
And that's what makes this so interesting and so important. We're at a crossroads, and what we do now will affect, generations to come.
Okay, I'm feeling a mix of inspiration and terror right now, to be honest. But I think that's a good sign, right? I mean, we're really thinking about this and how big of a deal it is.
Totally. That's the first step to building a future we can all be proud of.
Okay, so we've talked about the economy, totally changing, the ethical stuff, and some solutions. But I still feel like there's more to unpack with this Optimus thing. What's the big takeaway for our listeners? What can they actually do with all this info?
Well, I think the biggest thing is, the future isn't something that just happens to us, It's something we make with the choices we make today.
Okay, I like that. That's, empowering. But how do we even choose? This Optimus thing, it's so huge, it feels like trying to control a tidal wave.
Oh, yeah, it's a big challenge for sure. But we can't just sit back and, watch it happen. First thing, we got to be aware of what's going on. We talked about staying informed, right? And that's super important. But it's not enough to just, read stuff. You got to think about it critically, Question things, challenge what you think you know, and form your own opinions.
Right, because there's so much hype about AI and robots, and a lot of fear, too. It's easy to get caught up in that and miss what's really happening.
Exactly. And that's why you got to look at it from different angles, talk to people with different ideas, and be willing to, change your own mind.
So step 1, get informed, think for yourself. Got it. What's next?
Next, get involved. Don't just sit there, talk to your community, your elected officials, support groups that are trying to shape AI in a good way.
Right. So it's not just about knowing stuff. It's about actually doing something. Using your voice, your vote, to make a difference.
You got it. And remember, this isn't about robots and code. It's about people, making sure everyone benefits from this tech and that we stop the bad stuff.
So it's about everyone taking responsibility, right? Knowing that what we do now affects everyone now and in the future.
Exactly. And that leads to the most important takeaway. Be adaptable. The world's changing so fast. Optimus is just one part of it. Being able to change, learn new stuff, think in new ways, that's going to be key to dealing with all the uncertainty.
It's like they say, the only constant is change. Right. But now it's change on fast forward, thanks to stuff like Optimus.
And that's why learning your whole life isn't just a saying anymore. It's how we gotta live. We always gotta be growing, learning new skills, adapting to this crazy world.
Stay informed, get involved, be adaptable. I like those takeaways. But before we wrap up, I want to go back to something you said about Optimus, maybe not just changing work, but like changing what it means to be human. Can you talk more about that?
Sure. For forever, work has been how we define ourselves, you know? It's our purpose. But what if work, like how we know it, just goes away? Do we just become like shoppers? Or is there something more to being human?
It's a big question. It's like we have to rethink what society even is.
Yeah, kinda. And I think this is a chance to change our values, to stop focusing so much on buying stuff and focus on being creative, building community, connecting with each other.
So it's not just about adapting to the economy or the robots. It's about changing how we think, what we believe, like what it means to have a good life.
Exactly. And that's the real challenge, but also the real chance we have. Because the Optimus revolution, it's not really about robots, it's about us. Who we are, what we care about, and what kind of future we want to make. Click this next video to see exactly how Elon and Tesla plan to scale this multi-trillion-dollar AI humanoid robot empire.